Hi there, it's Michelle Butt, and this is the series of the 2019 Prime Minister candidates Faces Watch. So what we're doing in this series is taking a look at the four big candidates for Prime Minister. As you may or may not know, we have a federal election coming up here in Canada in a few weeks, and I thought we'd take a look at what the faces of the candidates are telling us about who they are and what they have to offer us. So let's take a look at the very first face. So this is Justin Trudeau. He is our current Prime Minister, and I'm just going to go into the things that pop out at me most in terms of his face. We're not going to go into a full face reading. This is really just an overview to give you some indication of what his face can tell us about who he is. And when you look at him, the first thing we see, or the thing that pops out at me first as a facial intelligence expert, is the difference in the way he holds his eyes. Now, if you notice, his right eye is held more narrowly than his left eye in terms of openness. And when an eye is held more narrowly, what that means is that potentially that person is a little less trusting, holds their cards closer to the vest, doesn't necessarily share everything that's going on inside, potentially will not ever share that, has the ability to be less trusting and potentially less trustable, because they are holding things back. And when we look at when it shows up on one side of the face as opposed to the other, it's important to indicate which side of the face that is. And if we look here, this is on Justin Trudeau's right side of his face, and the right side is the public side of his face. So when he's in public, the things that he is sharing, so public meaning work life, not family, not close friends, he is potentially less trusting, potentially sharing less than he does in his private life, potentially holding his cards closer to the vest and holding things back. If we take a look at his face in this picture, what we see here is someone who has a very strong warrior face. So really strong eyebrows, very chiseled jaw. So this is someone who is competitive by nature, needs to be top dog, potentially needs to be right, and will want to be right at all costs, potentially. This is someone who is very logical in their thinking, might have the potential for anger and frustration more so than somebody else, but also a strong warrior face indicates someone who at the highest intention is someone who wants to be an agent for change and is willing to step into the fray to do that for others. Here we see him smiling, and what we see in this smiling face is that his eyes are very, very sparkly. He has what looks like a dimple here and some very strong joy lines showing up. So really, this is someone who has a lot of captivator in his personality, can be very charming, potentially very, very charismatic. And we can see that in terms of his last campaign. Justin Trudeau comes across as a very charismatic, kind of playful person. But this captivator nature is also someone who is potentially more self-centered, more self-involved, more self-indulgent. And so the need for the spotlight is just as potentially prominent as the need to be that agent of change. So we see that a little bit more here. If we take a look at his mouth in particular, he has a much smaller upper lip compared to his lower lip. So this is someone who potentially likes to be pampered, likes to maybe overindulge a little bit. This wavy hair and these stronger ears, these nice prominent ears, are someone who potentially is a little bit more rebellious, likes to march to the beat of their own drum, but again, wants some pampering here. This mouth is very significant in terms of being someone who needs to be fed, in essence, more than he potentially feeds others in terms of what his priority is. And with these strong eyebrows and this kind of pampering nature, potentially this is someone who, even if they are not right, will have a hard time admitting that and may try and, deflect things, deflect attention if it's not good attention, deflect blame if it's not something that, if it would make him look less appealing in the public light. And the last thing I wanted to mention today in terms of his face is taking a look at his face in motion. If you remember what I originally talked to, the first thing I noticed was how much more closed his right eye is than his left. And if you catch his face in motion, and I know these are all stills, so we would need to watch him when he's actually on video or potentially talking. So I want you to watch for that, especially if you're Canadian, you're watching any of the debates. But he tends to do this where he kind of curls and speaks out of the side of his mouth. He talks with a twisted mouth, and that ends up twisting his face. If you notice that, I don't know if you can catch that. And so it closes this eye down some more. So even when he's talking, he's closing himself off in terms of that openness, and potentially in terms of what he's actually saying. Is it something you can trust? Is he holding back in that sense? Because you're showing he's in his actual, when he's communicating, closing off communication by making that eye get more closed, as well as the twist in his mouth. It's almost like, is he feeding us everything? Is he feeding us all the straight goods? What is he exactly feeding? Because it's not even, it's not square, it's not straight. There's something slightly off about it. And so in terms of trustworthiness, and again, he is a politician, what is actually happening there? And do we need to listen more closely and make sure that what is actually coming out of his mouth is matching his intention, is matching what we need from him because of the way this shows up? So facial intelligence helps you understand someone's personality. So this is someone who really has the potential to be an agent for change, really has the potential to think logically and fight for what he believes is right. But there is this captivator, and kind of closed off publicly a little bit captivator, that may need the spotlight and may not be sharing as much as he possibly could, or being as truthful as we would need him to be to really represent us as a people. And so in watching all of that and taking into account all of those things, that charisma and that charm, that potential warmth in his warm-heartedness might also serve in the global arena. And that's up to us to decide, and it's up to us to decide if what he's actually saying matches what his face is saying. So, is he a charismatic party boy, or is he a charismatic agent for change for us? And the one other thing that is really interesting is the way that his hairline is as well. This little bit of a widow's peak hair is also someone who has a lot of charisma and charm, and potentially has some creativity in there. So there is the potential for wisdom, but his very strong ears make him a bit of a risk taker, and someone who marches to his own drum. And that could be good, or it could be a challenge in his role as Prime Minister. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I hope that gives you some food for thought. By all means, send me questions or comments if you have more to share about his particular face or you have more questions. But this is the first of 4 in this series on our Prime Minister candidates. So thanks for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye for now.